Good morning, everyone. Bless you, and welcome, and bless you too. So here in the temple and online, we welcome you to our Ananda, Texas Sunday service. And in a moment, we'll be opening with an opening prayer. And then I'll just tell you now, I think we'll do that. So after the opening prayer, we'll sit, we'll chant, we'll have a 30-minute meditation. And we'll come out at 10:45 because we do have a visiting minister coming on at 11. So at 10:45 we'll do our affirmation, we'll do our reading, then we'll welcome Devalila, who is the head of the Kriya ministry. So sounds like a good place to start. So we'll say our opening questions. The voice of God calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes? Awake and ready. And when he asks us to dedicate ourselves more perfectly, how will he find us? Awake and ready. And now we'll open with a prayer.
Please join our hands, close our eyes. Please pray after me. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Friend, beloved God,
Friend, beloved God,
Great Masters of this path,
Great Masters of this path,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
and our beloved Guru,
and our beloved Guru,
Paramhansa Yogananda,
Paramhansa Yogananda,
saints and sages of all religion,
saints and sages of all religions,
humbly we bow down to you all.
humbly we bow to you all.
May thy love shine forever
shine forever
in the sanctuary of our devotion.
on the sanctuary of our devotion.
May we feel thy presence
And may we feel thy presence
in our lives
in our lives
and be free in this lifetime.
and be free in this lifetime.
Om.
Om. Peace. Amen. Okay, let's be seated. Turn your chair a little bit to face. Yeah. So we will start with the invocations, the hymn to Brahma. And hi, Liz. And Twameva Mata, and then we'll have our chant and go into meditation for about 30 minutes. Okay? We will offer purification if you would like to participate in that. You all know what that is, and I'll be doing purification this morning, so let's enjoy being together and just welcoming the rain. I had rain at my house this morning. I don't know if everybody did, and I was thinking of the gardens here in the rain. It was just a lovely thought for our beautiful gardens being nourished in that way. So, okay, let's start with the hymn to Brahma.
Om
shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I take. Just like a fire burns a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. And then the second time is, how shall I seek thee, Lord my God? How shall I serve thee, Lord my God? And how shall I worship thee? How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath? How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, to the root my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, to the root my desires. How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, to the root my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, to the root my desires. How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, to the root my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, to the root my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest to the root my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest to the root my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, bring to the root my desire. How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest to the root my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest to the root my desire. Let the us practice our affirmation together from Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Kriyananda. And today's affirmation is on introspection. People commonly delude themselves with easy rationalizations. Maybe I wasn't as kind as I might have been, they'll say. But wouldn't you have been unkind too if it treated you that way? It wasn't my fault. The fault was his. Thus, the blame for every wrong is placed at one's neighbor's door. Introspection means to behold oneself from a center of inner calmness without the slightest mental bias, open to what may be wrong in oneself, not excusing it, but not condemning it either. Introspection means referring what one sees to the superconscious mind and detachedly accepting guidance when it comes. So we'll affirm this 5 times. Please repeat this first time with much energy. I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. And this time in a normal speaking voice, and really hearing what we're saying here. I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. And this time in a whisper, I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. And this time, taking this into the entire, filling your subconscious being by mentally only repeating, I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. And this final time now with full concentration at the superconscious point between the eyebrows, silently with me. I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. And now praying silently, let me not delude myself with desires, Lord. Teach me to see behind the play of my thoughts thy ever calm gaze of wisdom. Om. Peace. Amen. And now we'll have our reading. He doesn't need that. It's okay.
Following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda from the book Rays of the One Light.
He doesn't need that.
Why do devotees fall is the topic for this week. Truth is one internal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self. And endless fascinating question is, why did Judas fall after receiving the extraordinary blessing of being accepted into the inner circle of Jesus Christ's disciples? For Judas was one of the 12 apostles, yet he betrayed Jesus and earned for himself the opprobrium of Christendom for all futurity for his sin. We find Judas reprimanding Jesus just days before that betrayal. Jesus, aware that his disciple would soon be facing with his death the supreme tragedy of their lives, allowed Mary to express her devotion by anointing his feet with costly anointment. This act of wanton waste, as Judas saw it, awakened indignation in that disciple. Why was not this anointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and kept the purse, bare what was put therein. Then said Jesus, let her alone, against the day of my burying hath she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always. Doubt not the power of delusion, respect it, indeed fear it, though not in the sense of cowering before it. For as Yogananda said, one is not safe until he attains Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the state of final union with God. Judas, though attachment to money, opened his consciousness to subtle influences, which may be called satanic, that drew his thoughts towards other related attitudes, the importance of worldly power, for instance, and of worldly influence. The Bhagavad Gita gives a graphic explanation of how easily the mind can be drawn downward once it begins to feed on wrong attitudes. In the second chapter, Sri Krishna states, if one ponders on sense objects, there springs up attraction to them. From attraction grows desire, impatient for fulfillment, flames to anger. From anger there arises infatuation, the delusion that one object alone is worth clinging to the exclusion of others. From infatuation ensues forgetfulness of the higher self. From forgetfulness of the higher self follows denigration of the discriminative faculty. And when the discrimination is lost, there follows the annihilation of one's spiritual life. At the first thought of delusion, Paramhansa Yogananda said, that is the time to stop it. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Thank you, Shriyam, for that. In a moment, we will be introducing Devalila. But first, we will get ready for the offertory. Would somebody volunteer to do that? Mallory, who always does it, is in Assisi. We are so happy to say Mallory is there, and Carolyn Cole is there. Who else? Mayatri and Mark. I think there's someone else from Carolyn. Anyway,
Linda,
who is it?
Linda,
thank you. I knew there was one more from Texas. Linda and Jim?
Yeah.
I didn't know Jim was going. So good. Linda and her husband. So they're from Texas, and then there are 4 more friends, some of whom Mayatri and I know. But anyway, let's just keep remembering our pilgrims who are there, and they are, as you saw, Mallory is posting on WhatsApp, so I'd keep an eye there just because that's exciting that she's saying hi from Assisi as they do so many holy places in Assisi with Darshan, with Shivani, and I'm sure other people there. So let me make just a few announcements, because, no, you can stay there. They're just very brief. Next Sunday, I know there is a free introduction to meditation. If you know anyone, it is free, please mention it to them, but we do ask them to register, just so we'll know how many people to set up for. And then today is class number 2 of a 3-week The Path of Kriya Yoga course. And we had 5 people in it last Sunday. Anyone is welcome to stay, of you all, of course, at no extra cost. But they register, and it's a really sincere group. So just remember to keep people in your prayers. You don't have to know who they are, but the students, all the devotees, you know, this is what really helps to magnetize and strengthen our Sangha here. So I think that's all of the announcements, and we'll have our offertory now. Thank you.
Take what you have to offer and hold it in your right hand. Please pray with me. Divine Mother, we offer to Thee the fruit of our labors.
We offer to Thee the fruit of our labors.
Bless this offering.
Bless this offering.
That it serve as a channel of Thy light.
That it serve as a channel of Thy light.
To truth-seeking souls everywhere.
To truth-seeking souls everywhere. Om. Peace. Amen. Sing. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Sing.
Joy, 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 ever new joy, 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 joy, 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 ever new 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 joy,
Thank you. And now in a moment, I will introduce Devalila. Is she online with us? Making sure. Okay, good. So what we're going to do, Devalila, is we're going to take a moment here. The devotees in the temple, because we have a big screen set up, I'm going to ask you to quietly just turn your chairs around so that we can see Devalila in a moment. You can open your camera now, Devalila, because we are getting set. And I'm going to ask you, Devalila, to introduce yourself, if you don't mind, because some people in the temple perhaps haven't met you yet. But I do want to introduce to you as well Shreyam. He didn't know I was going to do this, but Shreyam was a minister in Bangalore with Haridas and Roma, and so now he is serving here in Texas. Now, Swami Pranaba blessed him when he was here, and he's joined the ministerial team. So, Devalila, tell us a little about yourself. Welcome, welcome. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Supriya, and nice to meet you. Is it Sriram?
Shreyam, yeah.
Shreyam.
Shreyam.
Y-A-M, yeah.
Wonderful to meet you, and congratulations for stepping up. Blessings to you with that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's wonderful to be here with all of you. I can't see you, but I'll just imagine each of you there. I did get a little glimpse because I came on a little early.
We're going to widen the camera here, but people are really spread out really wide here, so.
Okay. Well, it's nice to be here with you. As Kriya introduced me, my name's Devalila. I serve as director of the Kriya Sangha here at Ananda Village for the United States, North America, and South America. And Swami Devarshi, who I serve with as well, he is the global director of the Kriya Sangha. He resides in India, and so I kind of take the lead with the English-speaking realm or the American realm. I came to Ananda nearly 30 years ago, and it has been just an incredible journey being here, serving and sharing with so many people over the years. I've done different roles over the years. One for nearly 10 years, Treasures Along the Path, listening to Swamiji's talks, really understanding what Ananda is through that experience. And I highly recommend that to each of you if you haven't utilized that incredible resource of the archives of Swamiji's talks, because it's not just what he says, but it's also his consciousness and his attunement to Master that we pick up on. It's this subtle attunement, which is indeed everything, attunement. Just prior to the Kriya Sangha, I served as administrator and the main director of the online courses. So I did that for another 10 years. And I've been in the Kriya Sangha for nearly 8 years now. So I am really excited to share with you today. It's the first time that I've shared with Ananda Dallas, even though I've interacted with many of you at different times, just via emails, or perhaps you've been part of our online meditation on Wednesday mornings. I wanted to talk today about the topic, why do devotees fall? And it's an important topic because we have to be aware if we're going to really move forward and sustain this long rhythm. Swamiji has said it's a long distance run. It's not a sprint. And we will have tests, we will have challenges, we will have ups and downs all along the way. It's part of the journey. I remember when I was at a satsang one time, it was here at Ananda Village, and there were devotees visiting from Ananda, India. Swamiji was here at the time, and I think, let's see, I'm trying to remember what year it was. I'm not remembering what year it was, but it was the first time that I had met pilgrims from Ananda, India. So it was relatively new when Ananda, India had begun, and a group had come over. I believe it was Nai Swami Keshava and Nai Swami Daya who brought them. And there was a small satsang at the group home that I would happen to be living in at the time, and we were walking in, we were going to be seated, and I just struck up a conversation with one of the devotees, and it was interesting. He looked at me and he said, "Have you ever struggled on the path? Have you ever had doubts and, wondered, if this was right, or just had a struggle?" And believe it or not, in that moment, I actually was going through a very challenging test in that exact way. And here's someone I didn't even know, and he asked me, do you ever have this? And I said, yes. And he just smiled and he said, "That's normal. That's totally normal. That happens to all of us. And something was lifted in my heart because I thought I should never have that test. Like, it should all just be a straight line. We should just keep going forward, and we should always know and trust, and everything should be clear. But it's not always so. And this is our karma. Our karma comes up. Things are awakened. We're purifying our karma through Kriya Yoga. And in that process, things will come up. Things will arise that are for our growth. They're for our lessons. They're for us to go beyond and to kind of lift the veil. And it's not us that lifts that veil, it's the Guru. As I was saying earlier, this topic of attunement, and listening to Swamiji's talks and his attunement, his perfect attunement with Master. Attunement is everything, and something I like to remind myself of is that attunement can be easily lost. You know, we feel attunement. You know, what is attunement? We feel attunement when there is this feeling of peace, of harmony. We're feeling very connected to the Guru, to the path. There's joy, there's clarity. It doesn't mean that everything is easy. So we may be very in tune and going through a test, but that attunement is that conscious act of continually drawing on the Guru, doing our practices morning and night. When we practice Kriya Yoga, when we practice meditation, we are strengthening our attunement. We're strengthening our attunement to our soul, to the Guru, to God's will. You know, Sri Yukteswar said an interesting statement, a humorous one that's very true that we can all relate to. I'll paraphrase because I don't have it right here in front of me. But he said to this effect, that human will is always unreliable. It's dictated by whims and fancies. And only when we attune our will to the Guru and to God in our life are we moving forward? Are we actually making progress, growing spiritually? And so this is what attunement is striving to continually attune our will to the Guru. And we don't just do it in meditation, we do it also by living in harmony with higher virtues, with kindness, with compassion, with understanding, with divine love, with divine friendship. When we're judging someone, when we're slipping into anger, slipping into impatience, that's not attunement with higher realities. And it doesn't mean that we can't ever, that we need to judge ourselves if we do have those feelings. That's kind of normal. There's a saying that we're works in progress. And so when we recognize those things, it's not that we have them, a judgment, let's say a judgmental thought or an angry thought. It's not the fact that we have that thought or that feeling. It's what we do with it. That is the key. That is what attunement is. What are we going to do with it? And what will we do with those feelings that we know are not of the highest, that are not coming from a higher self? You know, when we talk about falling spiritually, it doesn't happen in one event. It's a gradual process And this is what is described in that reading that we just heard of the stages, starting with sense attachment, starting with dwelling in the senses. And the best time, Master said, to prevent us from falling, to prevent us from going down that descent into anger, into loss of right understanding, all of these things that are listed. The best time is right at the start, right at the beginning. So this speaks to being aware, being aware of what we're doing, of how we're feeling. If we're noticing that we're feeling a little discouraged, depressed, we're having these feelings, to introspect what is going on, where are my thoughts, what is triggering this, and what do I really want? Swamiji gives us the question to ask, do I like suffering? Of course we don't like suffering. And he asks us to ask, what leads to suffering and what leads to relief of suffering? And the answer in that lies in not thinking of ourself, of the ego. It lies in expanding our reality. It lies in attuning our consciousness to the Guru. I mentioned meditation, Kriya Yoga. Pardon me. Just let me need some water. There's also study of his teachings, reading the books, watching our environment. There's a lot at stake. We sometimes think, oh, what does it matter if I indulge in this certain way that we know is perhaps a bad habit or something that definitely is not in alignment with our spiritual life. I'll use an example that I'm sure none of you are doing or thinking, but just as an example, let's say gambling. We decide, let me go gambling and go hang out at the casinos or the bars or this, that kind of thing. It's kind of obvious. I use that as an example because it's kind of obvious. It's like, that's, let me do that because what's the harm in just doing a little bit and then I'll get right back on track? Well, if any of us have had experiences in these ways or along these lines, we know that it's not just the one thing, it's the whole, it's like, it's energy, it's environment, and it's influencing us, and it's not helping us to become free. And so by choosing our environment carefully and recognizing what is at stake, our spiritual life, it's subtle. It's more subtle than that kind of blatant example. Maybe it's gossip. Oh, what harm does it do to gossip, to talk about that person? When we know it's kind of not right, we know in our heart. Well, these are the kind of things to be watchful of. These are kind of the start. We keep going down a certain road and it grows. Having been on the path, having lived here at Ananda for this length of time, I've had the opportunity to witness a lot of different people come and go. And one of the ways that, one of the things I've observed is this idea of not being willing to let go of what we think is right. I mean, from the ego. And not being willing to listen to the Guru or to our higher self. It's like, no, I want what I want, and that's, that's what I want, and I'm going to do it even though there's a knowledge deep down inside that that's not the right thing, and just doing it anyway. This is what attunement is. It's setting aside our ego desires and asking Master, what do you want? Swami Jaya once shared with me something that he said it kind of randomly, but it's really stuck with me. It was a quote he heard a long time ago. He said, the power to listen comes from releasing the desire to be heard. The power to listen comes from releasing the desire to be heard. And I've been contemplating that's what the ego is. The ego wants to be heard. The ego wants to be followed. The ego wants what it wants. But to listen is to release that desire to be heard, is to listen to that quiet voice that's speaking to us through the Guru. Master said this in whispers, that the Guru is the spoken voice of silent God. The Guru is the spoken voice of silent God. And Swamiji in a talk once was sharing that it's like you're in your mind, in your consciousness. You can imagine if you're in a gathering in a room, it's like a party or some large gathering where everyone's talking. There's all the different voices in your mind. It's really loud, and there's someone talking silently in the corner. They're talking very like in a whisper, and you can't even hear them because everything is so loud. There's so much activity, there's so much excitement, there's so much this is the senses, there's just so much going on that you can't hear this quiet voice. And it's only when things still, when you go into silence and you quiet, you don't feed the senses, you're not feeding the voices, you're just quieting that finally you can hear that whisper in the corner or behind or in the heart. And this is the Guru's voice to us that guides us. I want to read something, a commentary in the Bhagavad Gita on that same passage from the Gita. This is we talk about the descent of it starting with mentally dwelling on sense objects, and then attachment. That breeds attachment, and attachment breeds craving, and from craving, when frustrated, breeds anger. Anger produces delusion. Anger produces delusion. Thwarted desire, it produces delusion. Delusion causes forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of the self. Loss of memory as to what one is in truth. And this causes decay of discrimination. And this loss of discrimination causes annihilation of all right understanding. So it starts in that beginning point with dwelling on the senses. So Swamiji gives us a reverse, and I want to read this. He says, every step in this descent has a single linchpin, the ego. And then he asks us to ask the question, do I like suffering? Next, we should ask, what increases suffering and what, on the other hand, lessens it? And this is the answer. And this is the upward flow. He says the answer is that suffering diminishes when there is a decrease in self interest, when we're not thinking of everything relating to I and mine, a decrease in self-interest. The discernment of this truth leads to the first stirrings of recollection that a reality exists that is more than the ego and the body. I'm adding to what he's saying, that this discernment that there is more than the ego and the body is looking beyond the surface, looking beyond the senses, trying to look underneath, trying to be aware from the soul nature. The fog of delusion begins to lift from the mind and no longer strikes out the world in anger for not giving him what he wants. From acceptance of what is comes a gradual decrease in worldly attachment. That's a powerful statement. From acceptance of what is comes a gradual decrease of worldly attachment, because we're not demanding that it be different than it is, and so we're not wanting something, we're not attached to something that we think is going to fulfill us, because we're already fulfilled. We recognize that already within us is everything that we need, that we are complete, in fact, in ourself. It's not outside ourself that we will become complete. And so this acceptance of what is comes a gradual decrease in worldly attachment. From lessened attachment comes lessening interest in the objects of the senses, and an increase of longing for true wisdom. A longing which awakens devotion in the heart, love of truth, an intense aspiration to know true and everlasting bliss. So this is what we want to cultivate, love of truth, the soul awareness. There's a chapter, I'll just end with this and we can have questions. There's a chapter in a book called Religion in the New Age that Swamiji wrote. It's a collection of essays. It's an incredible book, and I highly recommend it. One of the chapters is learn to see, feel, and think differently. And he talks about how the whole cause of suffering is the ego. It's relating everything back to ourself. And that when we learn to see, feel, and think differently, this is learning to see and feel and think from the soul, in attunement with the Guru, to always be removed slightly from our engagement in this world. You know, where we enjoy the world, but we don't have to be attached to it. We love other people, our family, our partners, our children, but we don't have to be clinging, you know, or attached. There's a certain amount of freedom in that when there's this awareness that God is the only reality, this deeper reality, and this, of course, is a very high understanding and one that eventually we will all attain when we awaken. But in the meantime, we can practice. We can practice being in that state. We can practice the way we think, the way we feel, the way we look, and try and go beneath this. So this reality, this what the senses are telling us. So I want to just end with the thought that also to remember, even if we do fall, we always have the choice to turn around. You know, as Master has said, remember this, that no devotee is ever lost. That even if we fall, even if we backslide, even if we get off track, and that happens. I've known many people in this way who have come back to to the path, and they are the lucky ones that they came back in this life. So it's not worth gambling with. I'm using the word gambling again, but it's not worth thinking, well, I'll just go off a little bit and I'll get back on track later. We don't know that we will, you know, so just being, the moment that we notice that we're off track, that is the time to pray, and that is the time to reach out, to talk to someone who's been on the path longer. That is the time to open the book, whatever book, Autobiography of a Yogi, The New Path, and read a word. That is the time to look at Master, look in his eyes, and ask him for help. It's in that first moment. And just continuing to do that, and by we will all get there. Master promised that those who stay in tune to the end, I will guide them. I will guide them to the heavenly home, and that is what we want. So bless you all, and I'll open this up if there's any thoughts or questions or anything. And yes.
Thank you, Devalila. People online, you are welcome to open your cameras and your microphones. If you have a question, you can speak directly to Devalila. You can also put it in the chat box, and Francisco is watching that for us. And here in the temple, you all know we have a microphone set up. You can ask or comment on anything Devalila said, or let's just even make it expansive and anything about the Kriya ministry. You're welcome to do that. So as you're deciding what you would like to share or question, I want to say one thing, because when you talked about that, I heard you say such a major, I don't know if it's a quality or whatever, is awareness, so that we can be aware that we are getting off track a little bit and not go too far before we realize, oh my gosh, how did I get here? You know, and I think the more we practice this, the sooner we do get that awareness. And that's the grace of the Guru too, to say, you know, you're doing a decent job. You're meditating at least almost every day. You know, we're not perfect. However, the Guru has a way. If we make the effort, Master's going to reach out, and God, it always says, the hand is always extended down to us. And the final thing I want to say is, this is a letter that Yogananda wrote to a devotee who was getting very discouraged. And it's a beautiful letter. We've read it off and on over the years here. You probably know it. I've read it so many times years ago that I almost know the whole thing. But the main line in there is, Master says, I will pick you up no matter how many times you fall. That was so consoling to me, and still is. And I draw on that when I see myself stumble or stub my toe or go all the way down, and have the awareness to turn to God and Guru. Because if we don't have that, we're just going to keep going out into left field. So.
Thank you, Kriya. That's such an important point, really. We tend to measure things in our human experience and in human terms, but the Guru is unconditional. There's the love of the Guru is God's love, and God's love is completely unconditional. You know, we make a mistake, which we all do, and we will. What do we do with it? You know, there was a saying I heard a long time ago, that we're not responsible for our first thought, but we are responsible for our second. Because our first thought is dictated by habit, karma. You know, there's a momentum, but it's our second thought. You know, and that's the training. The second thought is the Guru. What do I do with this? Sometimes maybe that's down the road, the fourth thought, because the first thought had such momentum that our second thought was still not right, and our third thought was still not right. But at least if our fourth thought, or I don't know, the 100th thought, at least that we, at some point, and this is the suffering, why? We don't do this for the Guru, we do it for our own growth, for our own peace, inner peace.
So,
There is a question, as a relatively new Kriyaban, I want to thank you, Devalila, for your gentle, sincere guidance to the Kriya Sangha and offering the ongoing Deepening Your Practice webinars. Thank you, Stuart. It's wonderful to share that with people. It is a long rhythm, it's a long journey, and it's not all the same all along the way. I remember years ago, Nai Swami Devi said, there are phases that we're in, and one of the phases in the beginning is this enthusiasm for the path, which is wonderful, and we want to cultivate that, and we want to keep that fresh. But then there's times, it's kind of like, it's like anything in life, those of you here who are married, if you've been married for a long time, it's like there are phases, and in our relationship with the Guru, in our relationship with Kriya Yoga, we have to cultivate joy, we have to cultivate enthusiasm, we have to cultivate attunement. And recently I realized one of the things that has been helping me is the day-to-day, moment-to-moment attunement. That's what I'm reminding myself of, moment to moment. The minute I feel a little bit of unease in the heart, where are my thoughts? What's going on? This is just simply a learning experience. Am I thinking of the Guru, or am I thinking of something that's bringing me away from the Guru? And so just the moment to moment. And what has been really beautiful about that is that I'm thinking of the Guru all the time when I'm doing that. It's not just in the morning, it's not just in the evening, but trying to really practice that moment to moment to moment to moment, and using everything as an opportunity to reflect where, what is in this that Master is showing me? What is this experience? What is this interaction that Master wants me to learn?
Yeah,
what
I have
is, the deeper reality? I think I heard a voice.
Yeah.
Someone.
Yes, Shriyam.
I have a question. So sometimes when we do slide off or backtrack or are off attunement, there are feelings of guilt that accompany, right? And it takes a while to just because you feel that you made such good dividends or good efforts, and then again you lost it. So how do you sort of overcome those sort of guilty feelings of of being off attunement and then again making the effort?
That's a very good question. Thank you. There's a talk that I was listening to a while back of Master, and he said one of the reasons we don't remember our past lives is we remember all the bad. He said we're mostly good, but we focus on the bad. If you think of all the good that you are and all the bad that you are, because we're all a mix, the good would far outweigh the bad. We have maybe, a very small percentage in our overall being that is not not in alignment. And so what is that? I think part of it is, to the guilt feeling. Part of it is not seeing things as personally, but as just energy. When we make a mistake, we do so with the best knowledge we have in the moment, the best awareness we have in the moment. We're jealous of somebody, and if we knew better, we would do better. We wouldn't be. And so when we do see it, we ask, what is the deeper lesson here? I also like to think of it this way, that we have the right use of our will, the wrong use of our will. And for many incarnations, we've had both. We had the right use of our free will and the wrong use of our free will. And in that wrong use of our free will, we've adopted wrong understandings, wrong beliefs, wrong ways of relating. Like thinking, just the word jealousy. It's the thought that there's not enough. That you have something that I don't have, and there's not enough to go around. Rather than being happy for the person who's succeeding and recognizing that we all have this potential and rejoicing in that. That's something that we have to, that we're in training, and so in the past, we make a mistake, and it's from a momentum that got set in motion a long time ago, maybe in this life, and maybe in many lifetimes ago. So how can we feel guilty when we don't even remember where it began? It's just simply energy. And I know saying that is a lot easier than actually not feeling guilty. But it's, I think, stepping back and not our gains and our losses, giving them to God, both of them, our failures, our accomplishments. I am what I am before my own conscious and God, and just offering everything to the Guru. We backslide, that's part of our growth. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't really grow. I know in my own life that it's the mistakes, it's the backsliding, it's the falling that has informed where I am now, that has strengthened where I am now. And that brings that awareness of not taking risks with where my thoughts go or what I say, not indulging in certain things that I know will take me down. Whereas there was a time in my early time on the path where I didn't have that awareness as much. I would indulge in certain things that now I don't, because I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to be out of attunement with Master. I'm not willing to feel out of attunement with Master in that way anymore, because it hurts too much. And I think the longer we're on the path, the more that becomes, we become more sensitive to what we'll do and what we won't do. And so it's all for our growth. And once we get to a certain point, we don't have to make those mistakes ever again. And so that's the aim. That's what the Guru is here to help us.
Thank you.
I love what you just said, a lot, but just now in that last 3 minutes was awareness. Again, for me, that is so important, because if we're not aware, how can we even address it? How can we realize, oh, well, that's pulling me in a crazy direction, And like you said, the more we practice this, when we realize we are not turning toward the guru, it hurts. There's where the suffering comes. It's our own self making ourselves suffer. Why? Because if we would just turn to the guru, no matter what has just happened, we could not feel guilty. We could not go the other way because we've turned to the light. We've turned to the guru. And I mean, it's taken me so many years, over 30 years, to realize this stuff. And of course, I'm still working on it and don't have it yet. But I have a plan now when I do feel guilty. That's the good news, because it probably will try to happen again. But I was raised Catholic, and we focused a lot on guilt and sin, and you can't go straight to God. You got to go through a priest. Well, that didn't make sense to me eventually. But now, if I feel guilty, my plan is, as soon as I'm aware of it, I turn to Master. And then I almost laugh now. Why not? Why focus on the guilt? Change it to, I'm with Master. How can I feel guilty? And Master's saying, yay, you're getting it. Finally you're getting it. So that's my plan every time. Guilt, or really almost many other things, right? Why not have a constant, if you will, ongoing conversation with Yogananda going on? And my last thing I'm going to say is I experienced that with Nayaswami Haridas many, many, many years ago. They are back at the village now, he and Nayaswami Roma. But when they were there before they left to go to India, Haridas, they were managing the meditation retreat. And I was there for 2 months. And Haridas was always chanting, always. I would hear him through the woods. It was a lot of Divine Mother, but many chants. And one time I was near him when he was chanting, and he was loading big trash bags from the dining hall and the common room into his truck to take. They had to literally haul it down the road to the trash dump. And he was chanting. And I kind of walked up to him, and he was oblivious and so in contact with Master and Mother, I think. And when he saw me, of course, he went, "Oh, hi, Sue. I'm so glad you're here for so long." And I said, "Haridas, I love that you're always chanting." And his response was, "Well, that's kind of my ongoing conversation. Either it's with Divine Mother, or it's with Yoganandaji, or it's with the Spirit." He said, "If I'm always chanting, then it's like I'm always talking to God, and that helps me not to go astray, and you got to be careful." I remember he said that, and that impressed me so many years ago, and I think I'm trying to do that in my life, and it certainly works.
Thank you. Yes, this awareness, but also strengthening that upward direction, through chanting, through our thoughts, through our actions, keeping that going, because we don't know what's going to come. Sometimes we're going along and, everything is kind of going well in our life, but then, it really just takes one thing to change, and so we have to train ourselves to always be in tune with the Guru, always be focusing on that, because, our life can change in an instant with, a diagnosis or family members, something changing. And not that we have to live in that, concern or fear, but change is part of life, it's part of growth. And so by keeping that strong attunement going, we're able to go through these things with the right spirit without it crushing us in some way. There's two things I wanted to share. One is that just a second part about the guilt feeling that occurred to me that I forgot to mention is that when we've done something that we know isn't right. And how do we deal with that? One of the ways is to do the opposite. Really take the time to figure out how can I make amends for that, whatever that is, and clear up that karma. And that's another way to work with it, is to see it as okay, this is a karma that came out. I don't want to come back again with that karma. I do not want to have to come back for that lesson again. I don't want to feel this again.
Yeah.
So what can I do that is the opposite? And make a plan of action and put out energy in that opposite way. And that is a powerful way to work with, when we've made a mistake. I want to share about this momentum to keep going. A woman that I have known not all that long, probably a year. She received Kriya last September, and I think it was in July last year where she started reading Swami Jyotish and Swami Devi's blog, A Touch of Light. And in one of the blogs there was this advice that, I think Jyotish is the one that wrote this one, they alternate each week, that he heard in India from a teacher. He said, every morning this man would say, everything that is happening in my life, everything that will happen today is a blessing from the divine, meant for my spiritual evolution. And at noon, to say, everything that is happening today is a blessing from the divine, meant for my spiritual evolution. And every evening, saying, everything that has happened this day was a blessing from the divine, meant for my spiritual evolution. And this woman, this friend of mine, immediately adopted that practice. Every day, 3 times a day, saying this for months. And unexpectedly, suddenly, in January, her son died of a heart attack, 38 years old. And she told me immediately when it happened, and I asked her if she wanted to talk on the phone, and she said yes, and so we made plans for a phone call later that day. And I was very surprised in the phone call, because she told me this story about how this came to her from the Guru to do this practice morning, noon, and night. And it prepared her, she said, for this moment. And it's like to listen to those promptings, to take everything that the Guru has given you and to really work with it, to cultivate it. And I still am in touch with her. This happened in January, it's June now, and we stay in touch. And she is still, it's not that she didn't feel the pain of that loss, but she's so incredibly seeing it as coming from the divine. That's something that he was done with his lesson, that he is a soul in God's light, in God's perfect love, and that love remains. And this is, that's a big one. That is a big one. And so I mention this because, Supriya, you reminded me of that when you were saying about Haridas chanting all the time. There are things that we can do as devotees that will keep us not only going strong, staying in tune, but prepare us for the challenges that life will give us. Because it will give us things. We will have loss. We will have change. It's part of the existence on this planet. It will never be absolutely all stationary. You know, we finally get the house, we finally get the car, the job, the family, the everything, whatever it is, you know. It will change. The car will rust. The house will need repairs. You know, it's like, it just doesn't stay. I mean, we want it to, but what will stay is that relationship with the Guru and that attunement to the Guru. And that is everything. You know, our soul, when we leave this body, if we stay in tune in that way, the Guru will meet us. He will meet us, he will guide us to the divine. And he has promised that again and again, that those who are making the effort, and he never said once, those who fall and don't, you know, he never said those who make mistakes, forget it, you know. No, he
Thank
didn't
goodness.
say that. He said those who keep holding on, those who keep holding on. So that is the takeaway, and that is the message, to never give up and to not be afraid, you know, because the Master is always with us and he wants our freedom. That is the only reason for his incarnation, is to help mankind and to bring this light. And that is what his entire mission is about. And we are part of that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
Did
any remaining.
Anyone else in here? Comments? Questions? Snide remarks? No. No.
Just gratitude.
Someone just said just gratitude. So, okay, well, who else is online? Stuart, and I can't see from here, but welcome whoever's online with us. Well, if there's no other comments, we're going to let Devalila go into the rest of her day and maybe go to Sunday service. We'll be starting there very soon, and because it's 2 hours later there, earlier. Devalila, thank you for coming with us and for all that you do for all the Kriya bonds in all of America, and South, North America, and just thank you, because it's a big, it's so needed. This is Master's work, and that's your role right now, and we just so appreciate it. So.
Thank you. And it's Swamiji and Master.
Right.
You know, I feel in a way that there's this mighty river of grace that we're all tuning into. And, you know, I'm just simply in a place of helping to point people to that mighty river of grace. And it's available to each one of us as much as we can tune into it. So thank you.
Yeah.
All of you, we're in this together, austerities.
So let's bless.
Master guides.
So we want to bless you. We don't get this opportunity very often to have Devalila, so let us really just please receive our love, our blessings, and the blessings, of course, of the Masters. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good.
Namaste.
Blessings to all of you.
Bye-bye, dear. Everyone's saying bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh. Well, thank you all. Who is online? They're still on. It's Stuart and who?
Johnny Smith, it says.
Johnny Smith? Well, hi, Johnny Smith. We don't know who you are, but welcome. If you want to open your camera, you can. We can see you still on the screen, or we see your name. And if not, that's okay too. So, okay, let's go. Oh,
Hello, I'm here, but I'm not feeling well, and I just wanted to join this morning.
well, thank you for joining.
You will be in our prayers for healing.
Someone is so, if they can't hear you, someone is saying that you will be in our prayers for healing. We hope you feel better.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So if anyone is near in the Dallas area, every Sunday we are here in the Sangha House in Richardson at 10 o'clock. You are welcome to come. No advance notice needed, or certainly online as well. So many blessings. Namaste. Okay, so I believe there is actually snacks in our other room, so we'll kind of leave the temple in silence and go share snacks. And then there's a class, of course, at 1:30. So lots going on.